was just too long. And I think all of you had this same concern too. Upgrades and updates to the app. Yeah, soon, meaning 18 months, that doesn't work for anyone. But haven't we seen since a few months back that things are being released pretty fast? Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you are looking for crypto news without context, or you're looking for panic selling and FOMOing in, well, you can find that in lots of other places, but not here. If you, like me, came to crypto because you realize the potential for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period and are looking for discussions on becoming a solid and unshakable crypto investor, you are in exactly the right place and the right family, the Rainmaker family. The reason I created this channel is because I was once new to crypto 5 years ago, and back then I was looking for a crypto channel with a network or group that understood crypto as an investment and discussed important things like investment cycles and projects and the pros and cons of those projects, like the real pros and the real cons. It's okay, we can discuss them. The risks. We also discussed guesses of upside if it all came together and what it might go down, or that's what I wanted to discuss. And I didn't find that, so we created it. And I say we because it's not just me anymore. It's a family of Rainmakers, and you see them here in the chat. You'll see some in our free Telegram group, and the link to that is below. And you will definitely find them in our private Patreon group that allows you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. And this is where the best discussion info is. In fact, Doctor of Stuff is also in there with us. Now, do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Doctor of Stuff isn't a financial advisor. We are all big boys and girls in this space. At least I hope we all are. So each of us must make and do our own research for the decisions we make. That said, if you haven't already, make it rain on that like button. Strap in for the show and help me welcome Doctor of Stuff. Yeah, what's up?
How's it going, Rain?
Fantastic.
Good to see you. Good to see all the Rainmakers out there. What up? Shout out to you guys and gals.
Let me play. I had some camera malfunction. Let me play with some lighting options. That's a little bit brighter, though. I'm kind of red these days with this lighting.
It's just got an epic tan.
All right. Well, I do have a little bit of a tan. That is true. What's up, Justin? What's up, Thomas? What's up, Bill Gardner?
Oh, man. Bill, he is a staple, man. He is there for like every stream, always commenting. I love it. What up, Thomas and Justin as well? Good to see you guys.
Well, so Ecomi's OMI token. So we talked last couple weeks ago. How are you feeling now on OMI's token since a few weeks ago?
Well, it's jumped up a little bit, right? Since we last talked, it was around 0.0058 or something, and so it's jumped up a little bit. But I'm bummed. I'm bummed it's up. Like, I'm still trying to stack as much as I can at these prices. I think it's funny. I mean, I bought some OMI at 0.008. I thought it was a great deal then, and nothing has changed for me. So at 0.006 something, yeah, I'd have to check to see what it is right now. But yeah, like I'm still bullish on it. And there was a time where there was a little bit of hesitancy, where we weren't seeing the team. We weren't seeing a lot of improvements, or it was taking a long time. They were missing a lot of deadlines, and that wasn't good. But man, have we just seen a rebound on things there. So with respect to the OMI token, I'm loving it. And in fact, I got tagged in a post not too long ago where there was I'm trying to remember what project it was. It starts with the V, but where they did some buybacks, and the person tagged me. It was a Comey boy. Shout out to you, a Comey boy. But like, he was like, "Hey, why isn't VeVe doing this?" And I'm like, "Well, they're trying to stay away from being labeled a security token, and those buybacks have absolutely create that scenario where it is way more likely to be labeled a security with those buybacks." And so, look, that was initially in the roadmap. OMI, they did that, and they even maybe did a couple of those buybacks initially. But then as regulation came to the space and they started to say, like, hey, I'm wondering if they started to talk to some like SEC attorneys or somewhere along that were familiar with exchange laws or securities laws that they were like, yeah, we better stop that. So anyways, I'm bullish on the token, Rain. What about you? Even from 2 weeks ago, I'm just bummed that it's up a little bit because I want to buy at these lower prices.
I know. I know. So it's definitely run a different cycle from most everything else. When some other things were coming up earlier this year, OMI kept pressing downward and breaking new lows. And then when we had some FUD like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago with all the SEC filings, then everything went down. But OMI kind of had already bottomed out and just kind of sat there. And if anything, went up a little bit. And so it does run on its own cycle, and that's good. But one of the things I'm bullish about it with is from the business side in crypto, how many projects out there are revenue positive at this point?
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that maybe 1%? And so Komi, the underlying company behind it, and VeVe, they're revenue positive with just like only 1% or less of the crypto projects out there. And so they absolutely also dominating in this space. So there's some competitors and HRO and a few other ones, and they've come in and they've made a splash. But I can't think of anything that's grown near as big of a community with so much interaction and so much top intellectual property that they're still dominating the space. And now that they've got their development life cycle handled, it's pretty exciting where it is going. And I feel like this actually is the beginning of a new era in VeVe, right? So thankfully, a lot of us here, like what's funny is everyone wishes they could go back in time and invest in Microsoft or invest in Amazon. And I remember Amazon in the early days and people saying, because Amazon lost money for like 12 years straight in a row. And people were like, Amazon's never going to make money and it's going to go out of business. And they would they would sell equity in the company and they'd raise funds from other ways to stay profitable. And so the early days are messy. They're, failures. There are like bad decisions and other things. And so I just know that comes with the territory. I look and see, are they making the right decision? Are they making corrections when things go wrong? Are they making improvements? I'm pretty bullish. I feel like they've addressed the concerns I had extremely well. And I think they're still positioned massively in the leader spot with nobody even close behind them.
100%. And so here's my quote, right? It's that people can leave VeVe, but they can't leave VeVe alone. And there is something special about VeVe. I mean, and there are very few projects where that is the case. And man, VeVe's community, it's just so strong because of that. It just draws you in. And I think that the VeVe team in general, they've stopped talking and they're just like, we're just going to let our actions talk louder than any of the words that we've said in the past. Because I do think that they had lost some trust from the community because so many deadlines had been missed. And they're like, you know what? We're not going to put those deadlines out there anymore. We're just going to build and people are going to be surprised and excited. And it's worked. I've been really excited to see what they've done right since March. Like we finally have like a working search bar. And that has helped so much. You can actually find people now. So I started to be able to follow some of the people in the VeVe app that I've tried to look for. And in the past, all you could do was like, hey, if you want to follow me, I'm going to post my secret rare Spider-Man at like 9,999,000 or just some random Tokidoki. And that's how you can find people. So they've updated that. You've got burn mechanisms, crafting mechanisms. I love the little updates on the VeVe app sometimes where it's like augmenting your experience or like upgrading your experience, and I was like, whoa, okay, that's pretty cool. And yeah, just that 2 week cadence that's starting to happen there. And then the blockchain slash interoperability team, that's what really got me excited, is that they're really focused on a promise that they've made a long time ago. And one of the reasons that I aped in so early is I was like, oh man, if this is going to be interoperable, I'm in, right? And it's been two and a half years since that tweet saying that they're going to be interoperable, but better late than never. And so that makes me really excited that they are really focusing on delivering on the promises that they've made the community. And yeah, kind of like you said, like there was this space of like 2 to 3 months, right, where the FUD was crazy. It was like Twitter Spaces, and those FUD Twitter Spaces would have hundreds of people in it, right? And they were all just ragging, and I mean, it was really bad. And now I've seen a couple of those try to open up, and there's like 2 people in them, and they just close it down, because the VeVe community is like, you know what? No, we're done. We're seeing what VeVe is doing, the team, and we're behind it. We've got that conviction, and that's been really exciting to see.
Yeah, they've been delivering pretty darn well, and it's been about 3 months. And so that was the best way to combat the FUD, not with actually combating it with words, just combating it with action and showing. And then some people are still like, oh my gosh, the Soul Stone conversion still didn't work at first. And you're right, that was delayed. That's the first time they're doing something like that. That often has happened actually with tons of projects on their first time when they're doing something completely new. Because when they unlock it and they roll it out, sometimes they find errors, and they were able to fix it and do it the next day. I feel like then the burn mechanism in order to get the Thanos, where you had to burn multiple things, I felt like that worked pretty good. And I was impressed with that. And I just feel like over the past 3 months, they've just been rolling out big, cool things that we wanted for a long time in just quick succession. Is that your feeling too? Because I know the FUD was super high for a while and heavy, but yeah, it's died down a lot.
It's died down a lot, and like the thing is this is the bear market, and so things are down, and anytime things are down, I think emotions are exacerbated, they're augmented, right, magnified. And but I try to take a step back and say, okay, what is the space as a whole doing, right? And we're looking at Bored Ape Yacht Club, and they're dropping pretty significantly, and this is like the OG in the space. Zeneca put out an awesome tweet thread, and I remember like he tweets about it because he actually aped in, and I'm pissed because I was about to ape in, and Rain, I text you about Bored Ape, about getting into Bored Ape Yacht Club. Like we were there in the early days, right? And it was awesome. Like the community that, and Zeneca talks about this community and how exciting it was, right? And it was kind of counterculture, and how they built that up. But even now, like Bored Ape kind of has a target on its back, and everyone's now there's counterculture to Bored Apes, and but that's the funny thing I think about VeVe, like is anyone who makes it, they become a target. And so there was a lot of fun. They're just like, oh, VeVe, they promise all these things, even though, like you said, they're one of the only projects in the entire crypto space that's actually like income positive, right? Like a positive net income right now, where most of them are having to raise additional funds and burning through cash. It's just mind blowing, man. But they had a target on their back, and I think one of the reasons is anytime a company like that is successful, people are going to complain if the value goes down from where they bought at, right? But at the same time, we're looking, and they're still building things. They just dropped Darkside, right? And the first animated DC on the platform, and I thought that was really cool. I honestly don't know much about Darkside. I'm embarrassed to say that, but it's crazy as I've been doing some research on how powerful this guy is, or his avatar, I guess. But anyways, it's fascinating. But yeah, VeVe's building, man, and the FUD is just dying down as people continue to be impressed by what they're starting to put out and the work they're putting in.
Agreed. What's funny is I didn't get into comics too much. I had a friend that was all over Marvel Comics way back, like 35 years ago. And so his timing on that was like really good. He had like multiples of every single one of them. Probably they're worth a whole lot. But so he kind of showed me some. I didn't really read it, but I had a cousin's friend that had some Batman, the big ones where you could read through it and get the story. And that was my whole experience with comics. I always thought they were cool. I just didn't have any, didn't collect them. I wasn't that familiar. And so what's funny is VeVe has kind of, because of VeVe, I've actually been more interested in comics than I ever have. And I wonder if that won't happen across the world in the coming number of years, is people turn to this idea of digital collectibles. And if VeVe continues to be a big deal, as the space grows, if they continue to have a huge market share and the space grows, if that same thing doesn't happen to lots of people.
Yeah, I like you. Look, I had a big collection of comic books. I had it in this box, I remember, and my mom threw it away. It's gone. Yeah, and I'm so bummed. Like, I definitely had FA Deadpool. Like, I'm absolutely positive about that. But anyways, I kind of stopped reading comics. As I got a little bit older in my teenage years, and VeVe has definitely brought that back. Like, I have physical comics. Got lots of different physical comics back here now, and some of them I bought to read, and some of them, right, like I want to send to CGC and get them graded. But then even just like the digital, I'm not gonna lie, I love the digital that I don't have to worry about, like, oh, the corner's bent, or my kids coming in and bumping something or bending the page or something before I'm able to ship it off. I There's so many people that this has happened to that I don't think that this is just like isolated incidences, right? Like, I think as people come into VeVe, it's going to happen to more and more people. And on top of that, we already have like the younger generations who are so much more familiar with digital technology that I think that they're definitely going to walk in already either to having used it before, and that's going to be their preferred method for consumption, right? Of these things is the digital format, and so it's just going to create more and more collectors and digital collectors as they get introduced to it.
It makes sense to me. Like I invested in the first major IP that I saw come into the crypto space, which was NBA Top Shots, and their timing was just right. So they launched like August 2020, and like by March 2021, like things had gone crazy. LeBron James I'd bought for like $72 or $78 went to like $15,000 to $25,000, like crazy. And this idea of digital collectibles and NFTs really took off. And so VeVe, when I found it in March, made sense. I was like, Batman on the blockchain. And so a lot of people haven't gotten wrapped into this digital collectibles idea, but what I think will bring them in is some kind of crypto, some kind of discussion, and them seeing the values go crazy in crypto. And then they start to get interested in crypto. And then they take their collecting side of them over to digital collectibles. And I was listening to some numbers, listening to an interview with Yatsu of Animoca Brands, and he was talking about how many people play video games on the planet today, and he said it's 3 billion to play video games in one form or another. So think of how many people are connected to electronics and video games, and if even 10% of those, and it'll be higher than 10%, but if 10% of those get interested in digital collectibles in some form or fashion. And I imagine that in the future, actually, most gaming is going to be blockchain gaming, because this idea of ownership will be a big idea. So all of them will have NFTs, but as far as digital collectibles, 10%, and say, VeVe has a market share of that, like 5% of that, like where we're going to go from here to there is tremendous.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if you're seeing anything in the chat here, but
Yeah.
there's a substantial amount of chat about a YouTuber who used to be very pro VeVe, then got paid by Quid to do, a little spot and an analysis. All suddenly, Quid was like way better than VeVe, and then he's pulled back. But so much FUD, yeah, right. So many videos about how VeVe was dying, and they just weren't moving and things, and he floored like all of his stuff. And a couple of things. Look, I got to point this out because it really pisses me off. And he's not the only one to do this, but you got to be aware of how people couch things that they say. I called him out on it, right, and he didn't respond. But he basically was like, "I turned $3,000 into $200,000 on VeVe," and I'm like, "Hold up, 200,000 in realized gains, or is that just like what the value of your vault got up to during the height, right? But you didn't sell, and so like you didn't really turn it into there, right? Like, because my vault value got significantly higher than $200,000, but like I'll admit, like I didn't sell at the top. I mean, I sold some things at the top, but not my whole vault, right? And the guy had a freaking channel, so he like." a paid Discord of trading on VeVe, right? So he does all these things and fudding VeVe, and now all of a sudden he's coming back and he's like, I mean, he even posted, does the VeVe community want me out? And like, I think it was like 65% said yes, just like leave. And then he still keeps talking about VeVe, and now he's bought back in. And that's why I say, like, you can you can uh you can quit VeVe, but like you can't, like, you can't leave it alone, right? You can leave VeVe, but you can't leave it alone. And now he's come back and he's like, I have $1,000 of these grails that I bought, which is funny what he's calling grails. But anyways, look, I don't mean to trash talk, but when someone has spent so much energy like fudding something, you got to take a step back and is just saying, is their analysis emotional, or like what are their points, right? And do they make sense? And don't get me wrong, there are some points out there that I'm like, I can't argue with that concern. But when I'm looking at all of the other projects that are also having issues out there, and not just like competitors to VeVe, but the NFT space in general, right? That you just, again, Rain, this is why I love talking to you so much about this, right? And we're always talking and have such close contact. Is it's an investor's mindset that we're trying to have, where we try to pull the emotion out of it and just say, look, does this still seem like a smart play, or do I need to stop? Do I need to sell? Right? And for me, for VeVe, like, there was some concerns there, but nothing to the point where I'm like, I got to sell out of everything. And yeah, like, as I'm starting to see them build more, here's my thing. VeVe does a great job of like, what's the next new shiny thing? And they create this FOMO around it, and you're just like, oh, I got to get this. But I'm really trying to start to focus on like the very first series, right? Series one stuff. Because over time, people are going to pick that up and they're not selling, because the flippers, right? They're on to the next new shiny object and they're trying to do that. But it's the collectors that are going back and be like, I'm buying this. And all of a sudden, one day, there won't be any more Todds listed on the market, right? Or there won't be any Dragon Girls listed on the market and things. So just, I mean, as an FYI, obviously not financial advice, but like, that is what I'm starting to focus on. I'm like, but VeVe makes it hard because like there's all these new FAs or these new drops, and I'm like, that's important. Depending on the FA, that's also important. But what's that very first series? And looking into that.
Yeah, I had a question. I didn't fully understand the question here, but I like the question. Let's see. Stan asks, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on VeVe staying afloat in a bear market and all the fudders. Does VeVe overcoming the aforementioned forecast longevity based from you guys' info of companies? I didn't understand the second part of that question. What's your thought on VeVe staying afloat in the bear market with all the fudders?
They're just building, right? And there's always going to be haters in any project. There's going to be haters, no matter what it is, right? And it's typically the people who bought in at the top thinking that they're going to make a lot of money. And then the prices went down and they're just like, look, I was fed a basket of goods and this hasn't happened. And don't get me wrong. Again, I have to take a step back and say, there were certain things that the VV team said that I made financial decisions based on that, and it didn't happen. And that was upsetting. But that's the past, and that's part of investing. I'm sorry, like, that does happen. That happens in so many. It's not just VV. It's not like VV's the only one who's done that. I'm not saying that's okay, but like, again, like, there is some risk to these things. But long term, I look at that and what the team is doing. And so the longevity in the bear market, the fact that they are still making money. Now, look, I don't have their financial statements to understand what their fixed expenses are, their variable expenses are, right? To truly do like an analysis of their financial statement. That is my background. That is like one of the things that I do every day. I would love that, right? That would give us a way better idea of what the company valuation would be at this moment in time. But they are selling out drops. Even though Dark Side, it took a while, they still sold out the entire drop today. And they continue to sell a lot of their drops. And so from like a longevity standpoint, there are so many. Look, okay, there's a project that I really enjoyed. I thought it was super cool. Jurassic Punks is what it was called. It's an NFT project. And they're basically like, we ran out of money and we're trying to raise some additional funds. Like, I really like the project, super cool. Great ideas, what they had, but like, they're running out of money and they might not survive. And that's a lot. Probably within the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to see so many projects just go belly up in this space. And I'm talking about thousands of NFT projects that rose. And all of this money that's invested in that's growing because they are not bringing in any more income. But VeVe continuously is doing that. Every week they're selling out drops, not all drops, but a lot of drops, and they're making money. So yeah, longevity wise, they still got a massive runway.
Yeah, it's surviving the crypto winter or the bear market, and a lot of these projects like Jurassic Punks, if they just go into low spend mode, right, and they just wait, like kind of hibernate like a polar bear, you end up surviving the crypto winter. In fact, VeVe, I think they cut their staff and they were paying some of the people that they were having do stuff with them. They were paying them in OMI tokens. I know one of my VC friends knows somebody that worked for OMI during that time, and he took all or most of his pay in OMI tokens. And so he ended up in a good position. At least that's what my friend told me, and he's a credible source. So he wouldn't tell me the name of his friend, but he brought it up to me, not even knowing how close I follow OMI and VeVe. He's like, "Do you know this project at OMI?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I got to tell you the story." I was like, "Go ahead." And then I was like, "Wow, that's crazy. What's the name of the person?" "Oh, I don't want to say." I'm like, "Ah, dang it." But he's like, "Yeah, he's worth like tens of millions from that." And I'm like, "Yep, he is." Oh man. But these bear markets are savage. And what's interesting is like everyone comes in chasing green candles. Like at the end of every video, I play this rap, and I wrote the words, but I had somebody who could sing well, actually a good rapper, like sing it. But it talks about I came into the space chasing all of the gains, right? So one of the things I say is like we all chasing green candles, like something that leads to terrible results is chasing green candles. And that's what gets us into the space the first time. So 98% of the people I meet in this space, they came in at a point because their friend had made 10 or 15 or 20x on something, right? Say somebody had bought in a Todd McFarlane Batman, and they come in, they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's up at 10K. So they come in, they're like, "I got to get one of these." And they buy it at 10K only to watch it go to 16K. And they're like, "Yay." And then they watch it fall all the way to like couple thousand, and then all the way down to 1,000. And here's what the smart people do. The smart people are like, "Oh, this sucks, but let me research and see, oh my gosh, there's these things called cycles." And gosh, cryptocurrency and NFTs and stuff, NFTs are part of this bigger cryptocurrency cycle. And then it has this big swing up, and then it has this big retracement. Oh crap, I didn't know that. Who did? You know, one of the YouTubers I watched when I was new in 2017, his name was Ivan on Tech, right? And so he's still around. He came in 2013. He bought Bitcoin at $1,000, which then peaked at 1,200, and then went all the way down to like, I don't know, like 80 something dollars or less. I think even $42 from there. And he was like, "Ah, crap," but he stuck around. And now he's maybe even 30 years old, and he's worth tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. And he came in like everyone else chasing green candles. But what he did right was he stuck around, because you know who else came in that same time period? BitBoy did. And what did BitBoy do? Well, like most people, he actually left. And then he came back in 2017, and that's run late a little bit, but at least that time he then stuck around, which was smart. And so then he really built his channel during that next crypto winter because he realized this cycle thing. Now, all of you who are here, most of you are newer. A few of you are like veterans since like the 2017, 2018 period, but most of you are newer. And so congratulate yourselves that you stuck around during this time and you're still here now, because I do think the bear market is pretty much bottomed, and we've been in this big down pattern, which bases when you learn about cycles and you learn about a bear market, there's this long downturn base that it builds that it then climbs up from. And so some people are like, "Can you guarantee we're at the bottom?" And it's like there is no guarantees in investing, and if you think there are, you're in the wrong place. There's not even any guarantees in life, but the chances are extremely strong that we're at or very near the bottom, and in the coming months we're going to see a very nice recovery. And so all I did was stay around the last crypto winter and research and invest and find some gems. And some of the stuff I had died and became worthless, and some of the stuff I had went 100 plus X and made incredible returns just by being too stubborn to quit, too stubborn to fail, and realizing there were some patterns here. And these patterns follow with VeVe too. And so we're in this bear market, and you're even seeing some of the people turn around. Like, I love, and I put this up. I wanted to shout out Bill Gardner for the super chat. Very much appreciate it. Not only is FUD dying down, but there's this new guy that's buying back grails named Cavell. Totally. When I read that, you were talking doctor stuff, and I totally cracked up, and I'm like, oh man, that's freaking funny.
Yeah, look, and hey, I have to give Cavell a shout out though. Like, he brought a lot of people into VeVe. He really did. Now, he didn't bring. I mean, he basically says, he put the whole VeVe community on his shoulders and brought him to life. And I'm like, all right, that ego.
It's a massive exaggeration.
Crazy, but he did bring in people, and I'm grateful for that, right? Like, and that's awesome. So, like, I definitely have to shout him out for that. His style is just not my style, right? It's very like bombastic, and it's too much. And I would listen to some things, and he would have some gems every now and again. So look, and props to him for swallowing his pride and being like, you know what, like, I'm going to get back into VeVe, because he bought at, I don't know what he bought at, but like, he definitely sold at the bottom, or near the bottom, and now he's buying back in at kind of the bottom still again. And I wish him the best. I do, right? Like, no ill will towards him at all. But I mean, I just want people to pay attention to, just because someone has a YouTube channel, they have a lot of subscribers, and they are like, they're loud, and maybe the loudest person in the room, like, doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about. Like, in investing is a different animal. There's investing, and then there's also flipping, and that's a completely different animal, right? And there's so many things there. I just want people to be aware of and be careful out there, right? There's just so many people. And look, again, when we talk, it's just like, hey, here are our thoughts. And I'm not going to make, like, there's calls that I've made that were wrong, but I'm not out there like charging people for them or anything, right? Or like, but I am doing well. I am net positive in my VeVe investments, even after throwing in additional money, right? As prices have gone down. But you've got to have that mental fortitude that to stick it out, right? When you're saying you're so stubborn, too stubborn to quit on that. Like, I love that, Rain, because honestly, there's so many investments where I'm like, look, I've done the research, and nothing is a guarantee, but like, I have to trust my instincts on this. And so just because the price is down, like, there's so many things about what VeVe is doing that are so exciting that I'm like, these are the type of investments I have to put my money towards. There's other speculative ones where I'm like, yeah, I'll throw like $100 of this, right? Like Pepe or something crazy, right? Some meme coins, but the real money, like I'm throwing into projects like this where I'm just like, I've done the research, and there's all of the things that I'm looking for are here. That doesn't mean it's a guarantee, but it's close to a guarantee for me as an investor, like that I can get. And that's why I watch this space. So I listen to VeVe so much, right? Is I'm just making sure that it's still there, that there isn't a change, that I need to continue to reassess. And that's the one thing that, like, I do want to say, because there's a lot of unfortunate name calling or like personal attacks. Stop doing that, guys. Don't attack people, right? Like that really just shows that you don't have enough conviction, or you haven't done the research to really make a stance. Use your argument and logic to just blow people away out of the water, right? There's no need for name calling or anything. You can troll people like as a joke or something, right? But like really attacking people personally, that's not the way to go. It's there, and just use that sound logic. And that's why I don't block many people, but I had to block. I mean, blockchain Andy, like, wow, that guy. I was trying to talk to him, right? And he just was like, nope, the VeVe fam is so stupid. Like, I just can't be civil anymore. And I was like, all right, like, those are the type of toxic people like we don't want in this community. And don't be those people, right? Anyways, and I just love this new positivity. There's more excitement with the collectibles. Someone had just said that. And I love it. I just love the excitement that VeVe's creating. I wanted to highlight too, Smurf Boy 17. He had said, we'll be curious to see, if you want to pull that up, how much OMI gets burned in the next bull run. And that's something another thing, without having to do buybacks, right? Because that was that concern. is they've done it a different way to where it kind of sidesteps the concern of being a security, where it's the individual that's burning their own OMI, whether that's to buy a bronze ticket, right, or like purchasing an NFT with OMI that will be coming out, right? A certain percentage of that is going to be burned. I'm still excited to see what happens with the VeVe verse. If some of the like non IP, like just general things like furniture or something that VeVe does, where you can just burn OMI for doing that. There's going to be different ways to do that. It will be very interesting to see, like Smurfboy is saying there, how much OMI actually gets burned in that next bull run, because people are going to be, there's going to be that demand that people are wanting to use the OMI, but then also that OMI is getting smaller and smaller, and so I'm definitely interested to see how that really impacts things in the next bull run for sure.
Great point. I hadn't even thought about that. Well, I had a little bit with the bronze tickets, right? The bronze tickets, that idea was magnificent. When we read that change, like there were some things with the change that I wasn't very excited about. But that part, I was like, okay, there's some things I'm not excited about, but that part I'm super excited about. And so that overrides it by a little bit the things that I was bummed about, that it made the changes like a net positive, that I'm like, okay, well, crap. There's some things that they changed that I didn't want to see it go that way, but the bronze tickets pushed it over the edge, and the burning that might go on, because I could see people buying OMI like crazy for those bronze tickets. And so I think that's going to be a huge thing. And I can see OMI, because I've been through these market cycles before, and even before crypto, I did real estate investing. Now, real estate investing, the cycles take way longer to happen. So when I found crypto and got started in 2017 and had my portfolio go up, only to have it get savage. Why? Because I had bought not at the top, a little while before the top, but it still retraced on me massively, and I was massively down, like a lot of people are feeling now. But then I stuck around, and I bought as much as I could while everything was massively on sale. And I took a very nice ride up in late 2020 and 2021, and with VeVe stuff in January 2022. And so, like, I love that all these people are still around, because I remember kind of being in the crypto winter, and I had seen these cycles happen in real estate. So I knew how the cycles were, but I hadn't really experienced from bottom to top yet. But knowing that it had to play out that way. And so then we're going through this again, and many of you're going to get your first run from bottom to top. And it's really exciting to go through, especially when you were a real trooper, and not only were you around during the crypto winter, but you were buying at those lows, and you were buying smart stuff, because some stuff will do, like most everything goes up when massive amounts of new money come into the space, but some things go up massively. And so if you're buying some of those things, the smart picks, then you'll do better. Like VeVe has a lot of drops. I don't go for all of them anymore. I did kind of through the first maybe 5 seasons or something. But then after that, and they said, in the future, there'll be too many drops and you won't be able to buy them all. And boy, did they nail that. So now I'm just kind of like a sniper, shoot at the ones that I really, really like.
Yeah, they're going to continue to grow, and it's just exciting. Like I don't know. I was thinking about. I remember you telling me, Rain, you were like, "Hey, when the crypto winter, there's so many people that drop out," and in my mind, I was like, "Yeah, okay, I can understand when the prices get down so low that people are just like, they capitulate and they're just like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm out." I was not ready for the attacks, right? Like that was something that I think really made so many more people drop out, where they were just like, they started to buy into a lot of the FUD, right? And they were just like, yeah, you're right. Like there are concerns here. And they're new to investing and they weren't confident in their position. And I get that. It takes time. Like you got to pay a tuition, right? When you're learning to, when you're doing anything new, getting into any new space, there's a tuition, there's a learning curve there. And so a lot of people dropped out. I was not ready for how much FUD, not just in VeVe, but some of my other projects too, where I was just like, geez. But I try to keep, I actually follow some people that are fudders, and like I have great conversations with them, and I can razz them and they can razz me, because I do want to make sure that I'm not getting so emotionally attached that I am completely blindsided by something. I think that's really important to do too. So I do listen to the FUD. I do listen to see what they're saying, and I'm like, does this make sense? And a lot of times it's just emotional ranting, and you can get that on the like the pro VV side too, right? Where people are just going so overboard that I'm like, whoa, like rein in your horses, and just try to be as thoughtful, and drive out that emotion, and as logical as you can be when looking at this.
To do the best, you're learning how to become an investor. And a lot of people coming in this space don't realize how key that skill is and how you have to develop it. And it's kind of an emotional intelligence skill where you try to separate your emotion. And it's really, really hard to do. I remember in January 2022, I told you, or I told D Money, I was like, man, if I were able to separate my emotion 100%, I would sell everything this month. And maybe it keeps going higher, but it's like so massively up. But I'm not able to do that, but I'm still going to sell some. But I'm like, I like it too much. I love the collectibles too much. The fear of missing out is too high. So I'm just going to sell some. If I was really smart, I'd probably sell it all because it'll probably reverse at some point back to below these prices. And that ended up being right near the top, and it ended up coming down massively. And one of the things that I think makes VeVe so successful is, even though logically, like, in crypto tokens, I'm much less attached to them than I was like the VeVe collectibles. And so, like, I think Justin said something up there. He's like, you can kick the man out of VeVe, but you can't kick VeVe out of the man. Yeah, doesn't that describe it? So even though my investor side was screaming at me, hey, just sell everything and then just wait and then buy it back later, I sold a couple Todds. I did put a Spider-Man Secret Rare up for sale, which didn't quite hit. It was just actually was the lowest price one, and one had just sold for about that price, and it just didn't sell. I think I had it at 95K or something. And yeah, some other things I sold. But if I was able to be completely non-emotional, I would have done it all, like sold it all. Which brings me to one of the questions I had for you. And then I wanted to jump. We got a couple good questions in the chat that we can jump to. If you could go back and redo one VeVe trader action, but just one, what would that action be?
Just one. I would probably say not. I sold a couple Todds not during the height. It was like right before the big jump. So I sold the Todd at like 3K, and then like 2 days later it was at like 12K, and I was just like, man. So if I could take back one, that was probably the biggest gap, of a potential gain that I missed out on. Where I was like, look, I already sold it. So if I could have just waited 2 days, I probably would have done that. But like sold the Pride for a decent amount of money, and some other things. But then I'm not perfect either, right? I totally bought into, and this is where you can get caught up. And VeVe is really good about this. And listening to the community, you get caught up in hype, right? Like the Batman versus Croc statue, by far my biggest sell. Like I bought 3 of those at like 2-3 grand. Because I was like, look, this is the first colored like Batman, and it's like with this Croc, and it's an epic looking battle statue. Like it looks so good. And I was just like, I just bought into all of this hype, And yeah, I think they're like $60 right now. That's okay. Like you're not gonna win every selection or every trade. But again, it's that mental fortitude, because I'm looking like long term. And so that would be mine. What about you, Rain? What would be your one VeVe trade that you could take back or redo?
Yeah, I would have put that Spider-Man Secret Rare at 90, and just it would have sold instantly at 90.
Yeah.
And then just leave the gems in there till like these prices, right? How far that would have gone. My entire, I think VeVe vault at that time based on floor prices was like 660K.
Yeah.
And so now it's like far below that 90. So doing that, I could like double my whole vault and buy the spider. In fact, I could buy like 10 Spider-Man secret rares and get all my vault back and still have like 40K gems left. But that's what hindsight. It's like we don't have it. It's just a little bit fun to discuss what we would do. I want to jump into some of these questions. There's some great questions in here. I want to thank Justin for the super sticker. Stan asked, do you guys have any intel on the relationship between VeVe and DC? Many have suggested VeVe has only a limited relationship with DC, but this dark side drop suggests otherwise. What's your thoughts on this?
So my understanding, and don't like I'm not fully. So I'm going to preface it with like I'm not completely 100% sure of the entire relationship DC has with VeVe, but I know that DC compared to like Marvel, DC is very segmented in a lot of different ways. You have like DC Comics, right? Then you have like DC. There's a lot of different like sections of DC. So, and I think that's one of the reasons that we didn't land DC Comics is because it wasn't just like one whole DC. Then you have like Todd McFarlane, like DC Direct or something. So like there's different portions of DC. Yeah, I would say I still think VeVe has a great relationship with DC, or at least the section of DC that they've been working with. So yeah, like, but for me, I also have to say it's not about like VeVe doesn't have to have everything. That's okay. Like I like DC back cows. I've got several back cows. I go for all the drops. There's been back cows has been from a utility standpoint. I've gotten way more utility out of the back cows than anything with VeVe. But VeVe has a lot of FAs. I love the AR utility from it. Right, like they're different, but so VeVe definitely has a relationship, and I think a great working relationship with DC overall. But I don't know if they have that relationship with all of DC. I just know that at least a section of DC that they've been working with, they've got that relationship.
Yeah, good point. Backhouse has been a cool project, and they definitely incorporated more utility. Done a good job there. And voting on the comics that they did, and they focused on utility. It'll be fun to see what these things do as the market swings back around, because like anything surviving and semi-thriving now is in a really good position for when money comes into the space, because that's like what makes things go crazy. Like you look at Board Ape Yacht Club, and if their timing hadn't been roughly what it was, which they were alive and well and somewhat new as money was coming into space, that helped propel them into a company that probably is going to be around for forever now, because they were later able to come out with their own token and some more utility and some more ideas, because they were super flush with cash and truthfully some smart people. A lot of their ideas were really great ideas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think VeVe's super well positioned to catch the next wave and ride it out, do really, really well. And some of these other companies too, hopefully Bat Cows and their partnership with DC will be good. I did want to ask what you thought about Darkseid and the quality of it and the animation. What was your overall thoughts?
I mean, I looked at some of the cartoon animations of Darkseid, and I feel like they did a pretty good job. Does he look as great as Thanos? Like, no. Like Thanos looks amazing. Um, but I like DC signs off on all this stuff, right? So if they feel comfortable, like, hey, this was a good interpretation of it, like I don't know. I guess I'm not in there, and I am not myself like a designer. Like I don't do that stuff, right? Like I do some like art, some pencil work. I think if you follow me on Twitter, I'd actually posted a while ago this stipple art that I'd done of a catfish. I thought it was pretty dope, but I think the animation's pretty awesome. Like the eyes coming out. I mean the lasers coming out of the eyes, and how it like goes around him. Super awesome, man. Like his little squat. I think that there's been uh, some funny memes that have come out of that squat. It's been pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, after Thanos, right? Thanos really crushed it on the quality.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping for more, I can say, but like it just is what it is. So, DC doesn't come to me and ask my opinion yet. So I would have been like, yeah, look at what Marvel just did with Thanos. Yeah, no, let's not make it the old cartoon version of Darkseid. Let's do an updated, cool one.
Yeah, yeah. And again, like I'm not the expert on Dark Side, so I haven't done the research to look to say like, yeah, they nailed it, or like this was really lacking. I've seen some people complain about it, but for me, as someone who doesn't know much about Dark Side, I thought the animation was pretty cool, right? But also Thor, Thanos looked much better, but Thanos wasn't animated, so there's that too, right?
True, true. And it is animated. The animation I thought was okay. Like some of the stuff has come out super cool, and then animation's like on point, and some of the stuff is kind of like, meh, all right. But I do think that ones that hit it where they're just like totally amazing. We're still in the early season, so look at like early stuff in like basketball cards and baseball cards and what ended up having good value. I think down the road, 20 or 30 years from now, the first appearances of major characters are going to be a big deal, and especially like the first really cool ones of them. So I am pretty bullish on the Thanos and both versions of that. Hopefully, like it'll kind of fade from people's minds for the next 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months, kind of like Darth Vader has and Boba Fett has, and it will get really, really cheap, and it'll be a good time to pick up 10 or 20 or 30 of them for really cheap, and then people will remember them later. And what's funny is the next new thing like keeps people's attention. Like right now, still people are talking about Luke Skywalker secret rare. Oh my gosh! And look how high it went. And Darth Vader ultra rare, which was the highest one, went really, really high too for like a month or two. But then, as it just got farther in the past, like what can you buy the Darth Vader for? I'm gonna pull it up right now.
Last time I saw it was around like $500, and I mean to your point, right? Like Vader got to 3K, and it was really exciting. And there's just these cycles, and so you'll see. Yeah, I think that the Luke is going to drop. And what's kind of surprising to me now, definitely there's the scarcity of Luke, and the Skywalker name is big. Luke Skywalker is big, but Darth Vader, like I mean, I don't know. Anyways, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how all of that plays out in scarcity. There will definitely be people. There are massive Star Wars collectors that will want every single set. But yeah, I'm with you. I think that there will be a new shiny object, and people will go for that, and they'll sell something that they paid a really high price for, so that they can get gems to try to speculate on the next new shiny thing. And that's where people lose a lot of money. Is they sell, they buy high, and then they sell even just medium, maybe not low, but like medium, because they want to try to get into the next thing that they're FOMOing into, as opposed to just like holding. And look, shouldn't hold everything. Like I've held, right. I could, if I had sold at the top and then waited to buy back in. But again, it's a longer term vision for me. So it'll be interesting to see in 3 to 5 years, looking back and saying, yes, even though I could have sold at this point, I held it and it dropped lower. I bought more at those lower price points. And then where did it go from there, right? And it's just that patience and understanding that. There's another question though, from Stan there about it's at 940 there, but it says, yeah, in your guys' opinion, what would be a brand's trepidation in participating fully in interoperability? Is there a suggested counter to possible cold feet? So I was at NFT NYC, and I spoke with Robbie Ferguson, right, from Immutable X, because he gave this talk, and he came afterwards, and I came up to him and I was like, hey, Robbie, I learned about Immutable X through VeVe actually, and he's like, oh, we love VeVe. They've been great to work with, and I was like, well, that's great to hear. And I just said, obviously VeVe talked about interoperability, and I know that you guys have this smart contract that allows for fees like to be into the code, right? So that they should be able to get their royalties. Like, what do you think some of the other concerns are with these major IPs in becoming interoperable and selling on Immutable X or other marketplaces? And he said it was a couple of things. He still said that even with Immutable X's like blockchain, like coded royalty, um, there's still trepidation about that, ensuring that they get those royalties and concerns about that. And then the other thing is like they're very protective of their brand, and they were very concerned on like a marketplace that's not controlled, their IP showing up next to maybe something a lot more salacious, right? So if you got like this Mickey Mouse NFT, and then you got like a Playboy NFT like right next to it on the marketplace, like Disney doesn't want that at all. I mean, according like so that's what I was told. So there's a couple things there. Is really trying to, as they're trying to wrap their head around the space and what they feel like is an acceptable level of exposure with their product or their IP, and how that's viewed and what it's next to all of that. And on top of that, the royalties, because the big selling point for a lot of these IPs was the fact that like, hey, you can get perpetual royalties on that. And if there's a way to sidestep that, people are going to sidestep it if they can, right? Like they're like, why am I giving them this money when I could pocket it myself, right? And we see that with Blur and OpenSea and what happened there. So I hope that answers your question, Stan. Yeah, and we love these questions. Keep throwing them out, right? Like this is a conversation between Rain and myself, but like we love just chatting with the community. And there's some great questions that make me think and be like, you know what? I'm gonna have to look into that because like I'm not sure, you know.
What's fun about this idea of digital collectibles, I think really VeVe Fan Bam does a good job here. So shout out to her. She says, found a cool restaurant nearby with lots of VeVe official photo ops. So she goes there and she throws her Thanos in there with the
That
Hulk,
is
right?
awesome.
It, and just how augmented reality just creates these fun memes and different things that you can do. Like, I think that one is the actual Silver Surfer statue in there.
Yeah.
But like this one is super fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Right. And so you can totally create these memes and other things. And hopefully, I hope as they launch the VeVeverse, it really makes it easy for you to share your vault with other people really easily so that they can go into your vault and see all these memes that you've created with your statues in your vault doing different things, and the interactions are kind of funny, you know. So like I've seen all kinds of things where people put like somebody in the DeLorean driving and they're running over somebody, and you got somebody on the ground like getting run over, and just all kinds of cool things. Imagine you could let people into your vault and they could go in there and walk around. If you could share that in social media, and how much awareness would happen then. People are like, oh my gosh, that Darth Vader is so cool. Oh, that scene you put together. And so people are able to take their collectibles, put them in some kind of meaningful integration inside their vault, share that on all their socials, Instagram and other things, and people could click it and go into that. That would be huge. And that's probably where this future goes. And then these digital collectibles have even more meaning, because like, why do we collect it all? Well, it kind of represents some of our values, right? What we're interested in, like the cool things that we're interested in. And so as they do well, it becomes even more important, because then it becomes like a social flex on top of that. So that's why like Bored Apes did so well, is the social flex with that. And then these celebrities started getting them. And then if you bought one, you were in the same boat as one of these celebrities.
Yeah, well, that was also part of the intrigue, right, with Bored Apes for sure. Is you're like, oh my gosh, I can be in the same community as Jimmy Fallon, right? Paris Hilton, Neymar, right? I had a Bored Ape at one point, and it was just like, so they got special access to the Discord. Now, who knows if they were actually chatting in the Discord or what? But like, just being associated with that, right? Like that brought you clout, and that was like one of the things too that Zeneca in his thread talked about, was just like, you know, you was just like ape follow ape, and you got like 1,000 Twitter followers, and how many people's careers in Web3 were launched just from being a part of Bored Ape. And that's another like really concerning thing, right? Is there's a lot of influencers that just because they happen to buy a Bored Ape at the right time, all of a sudden had hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers, and then people again assume that if they have all of these followers, they must know what they're talking about. And how many freaking scams have they pumped and dumped on their communities because they don't care, and they're just making money left and right off people, and it's so sad, right? And look, I love making money, but like I love making money alongside people, and like I can make some wrong calls and things, but at the same time, I can look back and say, hey, based on the information I had at the time, I felt like that was a solid, um, like choice, and like I would probably make it again if I had that same information you have to have that established. But yeah, please again be careful, guys. You're just like looking at people on there. And that's why like I love your channel, Rain. Like you definitely have a substantial following on YouTube. It's not crazy, but like you got loyal Rainmakers. I love the community. If you guys aren't part of the Rainmaker community, I know that Rain talks about it, but I'm going to show it for a second too. Like I've been a part of the Rainmaker community for a long time. There's quality people in there. They're really smart and they're friendly. They're welcoming. There's chats going on. They talk about a lot of different tokens and things. You can learn a lot, even if you're just a fly on the wall reading some of the comments and discussions and things. But definitely join in if you haven't. It's a great community.
Yeah, you can join the Telegram for free, which because it's free, like there's no gate to it, right? People can come right in, and like some of them, it's just like you can tell are bots or scammers or whatever. And then we have our Discord that's gated by our Patreon, so you have to sign up for one of the levels of Patreon, and then we get you connected up to the private Discord. And so far we haven't had like any trollers or anything come into that. And so, for those that haven't heard this story before, but I used to throw these big parties in when I was single, because I rented a home with five other roommates, really nice home with an amazing backyard and pool and water slide and a hot tub and fire pits. And so it's a super cool house and these big parties. I didn't charge anything. And you would have a lot of great people come. And you would also have these kind of like, I don't know, creepy guys, and the complainers would come and everything. And then once I started charging, so later I just started charging, and then I had catered food there. So I didn't really make anything from it. But that $20 that I charged was like amazing because it kept all the bad elements that I didn't want out. And Patreon has absolutely done that for our private Discord. And our Telegram is free. You can totally join it. And a lot of the people in our Discord are also in the Telegram. But in the Discord, like the dialogue is really, really cool. And there are some special things. Like one of the reasons I created this was I wanted to be able to do interviews with some of the executives, right? So you notice on like the YouTube channel, I'm frequently bringing on guests because when I was new in crypto, I wanted to see who the team behind the different projects were. And I really wanted to be able to ask them questions, though that was never able to happen way back then when I was new. And so I like to bring them on. I'm able to bring them on live so we can take your questions in chat so that you can then tell us, ask these executives your opinion. And for the first time, actually, for the Patreon group, this Tuesday, we'll actually get a private session after the main live stream with everyone, a private session with Tom from Devio, which created Litcraft, and we're going to be specifically talking about their game Litcraft, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've seen some of the things that they've been doing with Woodcraft. It's pretty crazy the advancements that they've made. That's great value, right?
Yep.
So yeah, and I get it. Look, there's some people who are just like they just want to learn. They can learn for free and love that. And there's that option there. And then the people who are a little bit more serious and they're like, I also want like-minded people who are more serious about that, and they can get into different Patreon tiers. So that's great, but. Anyways, yeah, sorry, I had to talk about that, Rain, because I do appreciate what you bring to the space and the education, the interviews that you have. It's great.
Yeah, well. So what's funny is like I came here for making money. Like I love where the technology is going, but like I completely got out of real estate investing for this space because I was like, we have these really big swings in volatility, which creates potential for profits. If you don't do like most people do and buy high and sell low, and you learn how to buy low and sell high and learn to think like an investor, this can be remarkably good for you over the long term. It is harder with VeVe because like, man, isn't it the hardest thing to have like unspent gems sitting in your vault? Because VeVe, like, because I don't know about, I imagine everyone here has this major inner nerd like I have, but maybe I'm more of an inner nerd. Like I love this stuff, and some of the stuff is really fun. Plus, the investor side of me goes crazy, and I don't buy just like, one of some of the things that I like that I think will do well. I buy as many of them as I can, and so I have a hard time keeping gems around, even when I've had 5 or 10 or 12,000 in there. I just like buy a bunch of the cool stuff that I think will do well, and even more so like than even in the crypto space. And so good job to VeVe. And I think it's not just VeVe. I think it's because the intellectual property of what we're buying is so emotionally compelling. and combined with, well, we hope this does well for us. And so far, like we had one big up cycle in January of 2022 was really when it hit, which came right after NFTs did really, really good October in November of 2021. And so it seemed like some of that money rolled into VeVe collectibles in January of 2022. Chris Ashby asked a good question. One
I love
asked,
Chris. Chris is awesome. Shout out to you, Chris. Anytime I see it, just makes me I see his name and it just makes me smile. Just like
such a positive
awesome
influence.
guy. Yeah.
He says, forgive me if you've already discussed this, but what do you think the next catalyst for the VeVe marketplace will be to kick off the next bull run like January 2022 was?
Well, one of the things that happened in January, like late December of 21 and early January of 2022, right, was credit card fraud, where there was a lot of free money that went into that, and so just whenever you have massive liquidity, prices go up. So I've got to extrapolate that and say, okay, well, like what's going to cause, according to your question, right, what's going to cause a massive amount of money to come into this space? And there's a few different potential catalysts, right? It could be uh, with Apple's, is it Vision Pro? I never say it right. Vision Pro. I think it's Vision Pro. Um, just the use of AR, just in general. I think that if that grows, and then people tie that into VeVe, if the VeVe verse really starts to pan out. Now, I hope people aren't thinking that VeVeverse, is going to be some Fortnite Ready Player One type thing off the bat. It's not. There's no way, and I don't think that that was their plan initially, right? It's going to build out over time, but I think, Chris, to answer your question, during the bull run, what happens? There's a lot of speculation that comes in, and then people look and they're like, "Geez, this is the first Walt Disney NFT on the blockchain. Like that's a big deal." And then so money starts looking into that, and then a lot of projects are dying out. Right? Someone had put in there. They talked about how Recur. I think maybe it was even Bill, but like Recur had stopped their Discord. And Recur was supposed to be this major VV killer, and so I think that can like a lot of the NFT projects dying out, combined with like Bitcoin having, we're seeing all this crazy stuff around like BlackRock now, and Fidelity buying into MicroStrategies. They're trying to get a spot Bitcoin ETF, right? There's a lot of potential new money that could be flowing into this space, and that's going to be funneled into different projects. And I think that VeVe has positioned itself pretty well there, working with attorneys and things to trying to ensure that their token isn't a security, and that their NFTs aren't considered securities or anything. And then there's people are going to look at that and be like, "This is the like Disney's a part of this," and they could ape in. So um, I think the catalyst is really going to be like the price of Bitcoin going up substantially, with tied with the Bitcoin halving and all these other mini catalysts combining together, where the people who've typically in these cycles, right, they hold the Bitcoin goes up substantially, then they cash out some of that, and then they're investing into alts and other NFT projects. NFTs have started to become, another form of an alternative coin. So that's my guess. What about you, Rain? What do you think?
I think it's setting up for this, and part of it will probably be OMI coming back in. So what's interesting is they don't necessarily run at the same time, or they haven't historically. So Comey really took off in February and March of 2021, and it almost ran with as much momentum as like Doge and Shiba Inu, and OMI was actually one of the highest increases. In fact, I think it was number one. Hex might have beat it. Hex doesn't show up in those same charts, so I don't know if Hex did better than Ecomi or not. But Ecomi literally did like 15.
2021, OMI was the best performing token in all of 2021.
Yeah, a lot of those comparisons leave Hex out because CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko won't cover it.
That's fair.
So, but it's still like, so I don't know, in fairness, if it beat that. But Ecomi crushed it. It did like 1,500, 2,000x or something from the bottom to the top. And maybe it's 2021 starting right at the beginning, because I think they said, oh, it did 15,000%, which is only 150x. But maybe that's from January, and the real lows go back earlier into like October or prior to that, before the VeVe app even came out, where like the despair was super high for the OMI token. And so then we saw the OMI token run, and then what's interesting is even in March when the OMI token hit 1.4 cents, you still buy the Todd McFarlane Batman on the app, and it was going for 80 gems, and it took forever to sell out. It didn't sell out for a couple more months, and then it didn't really increase in price until the market later became open, and you could buy things on the market. It went to like 500 or 600 gems. And then it kind of came back down. And it wasn't until January of 2022 when it really took off. And so what you saw was this decoupling. Like the OMI token took off, and then the collectibles didn't really run till 9 months later. And so are they going to run at the same time? I think it'll be closer this time. And I think we're starting to see like the crypto spring is coming, and all this excitement about Bitcoin usually is a precursor. What usually runs in the early days is meme coins and Bitcoin. And every once in a while, just altcoins that just are off cycle from everything else. Like it could be OMI that runs at the same time of Bitcoin. And then other stuff just starts to follow. Because what happens is Bitcoin going up has a lot of people turning their attention to the crypto space. Some ride Bitcoin up and then they diversify into alts. Some people say, oh, Bitcoin's already gone up so much, I'm just going to go into these other things instead because they're so much cheaper. And you have all this new money flood into the space, and people come in and then they start asking around, and people like Cavell are really helpful during this time of like, because Cavell resonates on a level with certain people that I don't necessarily resonate with as much. And so, you know, he just speaks a language in a different way that some new people in the space really gravitate towards. And so he did bring some of those people into the VeVe fam when things first came around. And so you have lots of different influencers and other things that they then start using YouTube or Twitter to research, and then they start to find things like VeVe and other things and starts buying. So my guess is OMI does better first, and then the collectibles hit pretty strong. And if I were to guess, it'll be sometime next year. I know that's a broad spectrum. So if I had to like guess a month, it'll be like, who knows, June of next year or something. I wanted to give a shout out to Aldous Havley. Thank you for the super chat. Thanks, guys. Fantastic stuff.
I love that name. I'm like, I don't know how to say that first name. Aldous, and then Havley. Like it's, I don't know. I
think it's a play off of Aldous Huxley, but
okay,
right with having the crypto reference in there, which is really pretty smart. Bill Gardner hits.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, PFP. That makes sense.
Bill Gardner, has a good point here. The hard thing about selling the next bull run will be selling things that may have utility that you need or want. Yeah, pretty much nailed it. Like, what if Walt gives you some kind of status similar to Club 33? Yeah, that's going to be hard for people to let go of at any price. It's true.
Well, and even if it doesn't have utility, like actual like real life utility, if VeVe collectibles go up, right, and becomes a status symbol, like I have this, and there's a club around that just for owning it, right? That can make it very difficult to then sell as well. So I'm so excited, and I'm very interested to see kind of what the future holds for VeVe in this space, and whether there is some in real life utility and what that actually is. And again, that's speculation. And I would suggest, like I've done this in the past. There was a couple times where I speculated. I'm like, okay, here's a perfect example. So with James Bond, there was like a drop of like 7 in December. Like there were 6 collectibles. And I can't remember if there was like the posters or something, right? But there was a glitch where it said like 6 of 7, but they only dropped 6. And I'm like, oh, my speculation was that there was going to be an airdrop for whoever owned all 6, right? So I spent a decent amount of money on getting the 6, and then there was no airdrop, you know? And I would just say, first and foremost, anytime you're collecting something that you love, you win, right? Because whether or not it goes up or down, like you enjoy the collectible. And like I bought Cookie Monster off the drop. I bought Oscar the Grouch off the drop. I love that. Like my kids love Sesame Street. I've been using that so much. I don't care, even if it's not much lower than like drop price. Like um, it's always important to look at that first. But is there a chance for utility? Yeah, at any moment Disney could add utility to any one of their collectibles. But we got to look at realistically, like what would it cost them to add that in real life utility, and then what would be the benefit they gain from doing that. So I'm sure that they're running numbers and doing analyses on like the type of things that they can do. But like I look at the back cows and what they've done, and they just tweeted out with their 52-day utility. They're like, hey, something's going on with San Diego Comic-Con and Bat Cows, but Rain and I were able to go to New York and go to that Spyscape thing in New York just because for free, just because we had Bat Cow and there's this awesome dinner, right? There's a lot of potential utility that can be had there. And so that is exciting. I am not collecting things based on the speculation that there might be utility. If that ends up coming, great. But I'm looking at FA characters and other things. But I agree. I agree with Bill that, man, if there is some sort of utility, that does definitely makes it extremely hard to sell.
Totally agreed. I had a question here that I can't really answer. So Blue Storm asks, holding 110 million OMI, or first makes a statement, which is amazing. So shout out to Blue Storm. What should my number 2 be, Crypto Rain? I can't tell you. It would be financial advice. Number 2, I wouldn't do that to myself or you, because then like I end up bearing this huge burden. And if I'm right, well, great. And you're like, yay, because really you made the decision, not me. And so it's really your win. And if you're wrong, like I would feel like if I'm wrong, I'd feel like crap. So I only tell myself what to buy. Like literally, I do make the case for the ones I buy and why, though. If you check out my recent video, my top 5 at these prices, you'll see. And what I want people to do is make a fully informed decision based on the pros and cons. And I try to lay out the pros and cons in my videos of things as I see them. And by all means, like Google other videos or search YouTube or other things for other videos on those projects to really get a full perspective. That way, what's cool about that is then the wins and losses are your own, because the wins, it's like, yes, I thought that would come together and it absolutely did. And the losses, you're like, oh, I thought it would come together, but it didn't for this reason. So when you take full ownership of those decisions, it makes you a better investor, which that's what's going to make you rich. So a lot of people do come in the crypto space and they're like, I don't want to, just tell me what to buy. And look, that would be financial advice. But secondly, even if you're right on some things, you're not learning how to fish yourself. You're just somebody handing you, like getting your hook already and stuff and throwing it in there, and you don't have the skills to do it yourself. And what I'm all about is people learning the skills to think like an investor, because that goes beyond crypto. Like it'll only be for like the next 10 years that we have these massive swings where you can make so much money, but then there will be some other technology or some other thing that might come 2 decades from now, and you already have the investor mindset and the investor skills. You'll be able to profit from that, and you'll see what's going on. So think of this journey as becoming a savvy investor, and that's what you're looking to do, and become a savvy investor. And those are the kind of discussions that the Rainmaker family loves, because all the Rainmaker family are here to become investors. And lots of discussions as to why. And like if you join the Patreon, got access to the Discord, and you put a question like that, you get a lot of reasoned responses from people of what they like and why, which is great. You can also put that in the Telegram. Just be a little bit more skeptical, because people can join that for free, and just take it with a grain of salt, and then just verify what they're saying, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in there too, Rain. I think one of the great things to try to do in this space, and it takes a lot of time, but read white papers on projects and what are their goals, and then who's leading that project. Are they doxed? I would not personally touch anything of any project where the leaders are not doxed anymore. I'm just not going to touch it. I know that there can be reasons where there's a reason for them not to be doxed, but it's not worth it to me anymore. There's been a couple of projects now where I've just gotten burned because of that. But the more white papers you read and understand the space, you just become more educated in general, and then you kind of feel out like, hey, what projects are you interested in? Because I think that that's important too. Is like investing in projects that you kind of feel more connected to, because there's some projects out there that I'm like, like this probably sounds like it'll work, but like I'm not willing to take the time to really dive into it because it's not something that interests me. And there have been projects where they did well, but I just, first of all, you can't look at everything, but then second of all, I feel like if you're passionate about certain aspects of different projects, you're going to take the time to really dive in. And that's how you become a better investor. You start to understand the white papers. You start to understand, like, why did this project work out and why didn't this one? Do they have good marketing? That's another big thing. You can have great projects that fall flat on their face, even though like the project is amazing, the idea is amazing, but they sucked at marketing. That's important. They got to get marketing. They got to get their name out there. They got to get partnerships and collaborations and things too. But I had to shout out Jazz Deep. Sorry, like Decon, he was there. Like when we were waiting for, like in line to get the digital of Jermaine Rogers. Shout out to you, Jazz Deep. I love this community, man. It's so fun to meet you all in real life, and hopefully there's that Decon and VeVe happens again. I think it's in December of this year. I am planning on going and want to meet more of the VeVe fam. And then J Rock made a comment, Rain, if you want to highlight that. He talks about marketing in Asia. And that's one thing that's been interesting. I don't know if it was like last year or even in 2021, but basically they talked about localization, right? And it's like, okay, like the app is going to be like in Chinese for the people in China, or in Japanese for the people in Japan, in Tagalog for the people in the Philippines. When that happens, that will definitely be a game changer, because we do have some IP that is more popular in like Ultraman, right? I had one of my best friends lived in Japan for a couple years, and so I reached out to him like in the early days of VeVe when they dropped Ultraman, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, can you tell me more about Ultraman?" And he's like, "Oh, Ultraman is like Iron Man, Superman, Batman, all wrapped into one superhero over in Japan. Like he is massive. Like he is the superhero over there, right?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that's crazy." And then learning that there's different like Ultramans, there's just so much to learn there. But like I am excited for localization, and I think that the marketing there like will be big. And Rain, you and I, like, we've talked about how what is it like, what's that ratio there of the APAC region, like, and how much they spend, um
Per person on video game spending in
yeah,
Asia higher than the US, and usually the US the economics dominate. But in Asia with video games and also with collectibles, Asians per person spend more than even US citizens do.
yeah. So I mean, there's definitely going to be marketing, and I do appreciate, and I know it's been frustrating for a lot of people that VeVe has not splurged like IMX did on whether it's devs or more marketing or things, but they're taking it slow, and you can't take it too slow in any space, right? But I do feel like when they're working with all of these major IPs, they're talking to attorneys for these major IPs, and I feel like they're getting a lot of insight and understanding of the space as they're growing. I mean, they're a little bit more cautious, but look, as someone who like understands financial regulation and how important that is and how onerous it can be, and especially if you get the crosshairs there, how much trouble you can get into. Like I love that. So like they're slowly building it out, but as they grow out that project with localization, because they talked about, and I'm excited about this too, right? What about the point where they're like, hey, we're doing a VV drop, and the only people who can access that drop are the people who are in at DCon at this time? Like that is awesome, right? And they can reward different communities within the VV community, right? There's a lot that's coming. There's so much to be excited about that's coming down the line. Yeah, so like I had to bring that up.
Yeah, everyone would be using their IP address changer, right? Like their VPN, and putting it as like San Diego or wherever the location of the decon is going to be. See if that works. And maybe it will the first time. What's going on, Abe? So question, So we last had our chat 2 weeks ago. Anything happen for good or bad that has you more excited or less excited about VeVe in the last couple weeks?
Well, I mean, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago that VeVe announced that they have hired a dedicated blockchain team for the OMI token and interoperability. Um, I just keep thinking about that, that they really are dedicated to that, and what a game changer that will really be, because VeVe to the NFT community, basically to more mainstream NFT community, right? VeVe doesn't exist because it's like not my keys, not my NFTs type thing, right? Like I can't put it in cold storage, and I get that, right? Like there's no pushback from me on that. I'm like I wish I had that, right? But like, am I okay with where it's at now? Yeah, I am okay. I understand that, but once that happens, they can't claim that anymore, and all of a sudden, people really have to take note of that, and I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know if it's they're only going to be listed on certain marketplaces or a marketplace that Disney develops, right? Like there's a lot of speculation going on. I don't know if you've seen this, Rain, but and shout out, man. I'll have to try to find out um, who actually tweeted out the patent, but they talked about like this NFT kind of patent that Disney was trying to do about selling NFTs and basically royalties that go to the original collector or the original minter of the NFT, and they collect like a percentage of the royalty of sales going forward um, for a little while. But yeah, anyways, I just think that interoperability, whether it's on marketplaces like OpenSea or Blur, but with stipulations that those royalties are strictly enforced, um, VeVe will be a force to be reckoned with at that point in time. Now, I think that most people actually won't end up trying to move because they will have to move their NFTs off the platform of VeVe, right, to bring it onto there. There will be costs associated with that, moving that onto like a separate wallet or custodial wallet or onto a different platform. So a lot of people I don't think will do it, but just the knowledge that you will be able to, I think will make VeVe go crazy. So if that truly happens, I think it's game over, man, because that's been the one big complaint that the NFT community in general is just like, yeah, well, it's not really an NFT because it's not interoperable. If that argument goes away, then all of a sudden you truly do have all of this massive IP that's interoperable. So, uh, I guess that would be the biggest thing for me that got me really excited. What about you?
Well, that argument carries some weight with like people deep in the crypto space, right? But collectors, like new people in the space, they don't care. They don't even understand what that means.
Yeah,
And so, like, the waves of people that will come in the future that probably won't even be important to them. Like, you think about NBA Top Shots. Can you really, like, send that off? It's on the Flow blockchain. I don't think you can have it outside their app and marketplace. And yet, none of the NBA collectors really care that you can't, right? And so is it going to be so it's like kind of the NFT purists that do. I like the ability that once you're able to is nice because here's what I don't love is, you get on the VV bad list and you lose access to your app, you then lose access to all your collectibles. I don't like that.
yeah,
So I like that there will be that ability because then you've always got to trust that they will always have your best interest at heart. And I feel like they've done a pretty good job with that, but it's a lot of power. And who knows? What if David and Dan at some point aren't? Maybe they do sell out. We had a question earlier if they'll sell out to Disney or what was the other brand? It was actually a good question.
Apple.
Apple, and they could. And if they did, what would happen there? And the truth is, we don't know. So
I do not think that Disney will buy out VeVe. I don't think that there's a good reason for them to do that. There's a lot of liability that comes with the acquisition of VeVe with Disney, because they do have that token. And then what happens if they're like, we don't want anything to do with the token, right? Then they alienate probably the majority of the community, right? They're like, wait a second, you're not going to do anything with the token, like the backlash that would happen because of that, right? So there's that. And right now it's like, look, they can just like sign off and VeVe, like they sell their IP on VeVe and make good money from it. Like And on top of that, right? Do you really think that Tokidoki or DC or some of these other IPs are gonna allow Disney to have the say in their IP on that platform? I think that they pull out. They just be like, no. So I don't think that Disney is ever there will be. I could be wrong on that, but I don't see it happening. Apple, I mean, maybe like, but I don't know. Like again, I think that Apple would probably develop their own thing. So for now, right, I still see VeVe going strong just by themselves. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I know we both got to run. I appreciate everyone joining us. Randy jumped in here. The real Randy. What's up, brother? Good. Good to see you. A true legend in this community.
I love Randy.
Just know that the VeVe market is slow right now, and good decisions that are made during these pullbacks, they lead to life-changing ones. And it's hard to tell which ones will exactly do extremely well. And the token, I'm a big believer at these prices. OMI is like, I'm super hot on the OMI token at these prices. Do I have any kind of guarantee they'll do well? No, I'm an investor. I take calculated risks. And so for me buying more is a calculated risk that I'm willing to take, because I know something could happen. A meteor could strike headquarters and like VeVe goes to crap. Those things can happen. But I'm taking that risk. So many of you, you're going to take some calculated risks, and some of your calculated risks are going to do amazing things, especially since the whole market's down right now. Everything is massively on sale. Smart calculated risks are going to do really well for you. This wrap is for all of you, just to reinforce the principles that we talk about on my channel. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to Doctor of Stuffs. We figured out how to co-stream this.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We'll see you soon.
To the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, to leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to studying to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. I'm sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. They go with the hate, say the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.